I'll be ready.
Good evening. Tonight is Thursday, July 25th. May I please have a motion to come back into public session? Motion by Marjorie, seconded by Rory. All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0. So good evening. Tonight is Thursday, July 25th. Thank you to anyone who's been patiently waiting at home for us to come out of executive session. Apologize that we're a few minutes behind schedule. But before we begin, can we please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
To the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hope everyone is off to a good summer. It's going quite quickly. Hard to believe it's almost August already. I just wanted to, first item on the agenda is committee reports. And so we're going to discuss board subcommittee appointments. And thank you very much to everyone for sending those in. I just wanted to run through sort of where we landed with that, if that's okay. I don't believe we have any actual subcommittee reports. So I don't know if anyone has any board announcements. I think we can just go right ahead into board committee reports.
That was great.
Great. Okay, so what I did was everyone got their first choice for committee. Everyone gave first, second, and third choice. Some people gave additional choices after that, but at a minimum, we had first, second, and third. I was able to put everyone on their first choice, and by doing that, some people didn't get their second choice, but they got their third choice. So everyone's getting either their first and second or their first and third choice.
Julia, can I interrupt you just for a moment, please?
Yes.
Are we clear which of these committees are actually subcommittees of the Board of Education?
Want to go through that?
Would you mind?
Yeah, of course.
I think I'm clear, but there are committees on here that I don't think are subcommittees of the Board of Ed.
Correct.
And can we just get some clarity around that?
So
please?
I'm going to also further delineate to say, really forgetting the word, ad hoc, like temporary committees versus permanent committees. And I know that's not the right nomenclature, but so the permanent committees of the board are audit, finance, and policy. Right.
And
so
sustainability.
And sustainability is, but not required. It's not mandated that we have a sustainability committee. I guess so. So there are certain committees that we're required to have. So audit, finance, policy, and sustainability are board committees. We currently also have a facilities committee and the LES committee, LES Shady Lane, which is now LES based on the last meeting, although we haven't formally approved the new charge. Then we have some superintendent and district committees where we have board liaisons to those committees, which is Equity and Racial Justice Committee and Parent Council. Those are committees of the district, not board committees, so that those are cases where we'll have a liaison to represent us. They're not board committees. Yeah.
But they're not actually. Is Parent Council a committee? It's actually it's run by the PT.
It's the superintendent organizes that as a
superintendent. Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Correct. As an opportunity to meet monthly with the leadership of the PTOs.
Which I would just say on that one, that's one I'm typically used to as well. And having a board member liaison is quite lovely. And so that's really nice. So
I totally get it.
Yeah,
So
I appreciate the board.
Liaison to Parent Council is different than being one of the 3 members appointed to a subcommittee of the Board of Education.
Correct.
It's different. So I'm just, as we're appointing roles here, I just want to make sure that people understand which committees are actually committees and which committees are liaison roles to gathering of people for whatever reason, whether it's Parent Council, Equity and Racial Justice, whatever. I just want to make sure that people recognize that, not all committees are created equal.
Yes. Okay. So, and I will say that on audit and finance, we're the least popular committees, but I also think it's important from a development of board sort of thinking about future board leadership, and that we have some of our newer board members be on those committees, so that if board members roll off, it's not that the first year someone's ever on a committee is because someone rolled off. So I did ask John and Barbara each to be on one of those committees as a way for them to at least start to learn about those committees, because we were short interest on those committees. So that was helpful to have them each take a slot on those committees. So so audit this year will be myself, John, and Lorraine. And I'm going to chair audit. Finance this year will be Bill, Barbara, and myself. And Bill, I was wondering if you would be willing to chair finance this year. Okay. Policy will be Lorraine, Marjorie, Barbara. And Marjorie, will you chair that?
Yes.
Sustainability will be Rory, Bill, Barbara. And Rory, will you continue, are you able to continue to chair that?
Happily, thank you.
Excellent, okay. Facilities will be Marjorie, Bill, and John. Shady Lane will be Rory.
Sharing facilities?
Oh, facilities, Marjorie, can you, you want to continue
Yes,
chairing that?
I would
Okay,
love to.
okay, sorry, Marjorie continuing to chair. LES Shady Lane is Rory, me, Lorraine. And Lorraine will continue to chair that. Our parent council liaison will be John. He is also interested in being the equity and racial justice liaison. So he will do both of those. So hopefully that works for, so everyone, Rory, you're chairing sustainability. Bill, you're chairing finance. I'm chairing audit. Lorraine is chairing LES Shady Lane. And actually, so Marjorie, do you want Lorraine to chair policy? Because LES Shady Lane is time limited, and then you could just be chairing one committee.
I'm
So
happy
then-
to chair policy and
Okay.
facilities, honestly, but we can also talk about it when we get into the policy committee. And if
Okay.
Lorraine would prefer, I don't
Okay.
mind deferring to her, but since she's not here,
Okay.
happy to have my name
Okay.
in as the slot for chair.
Okay. Does that work for everyone?
I'm just going to assume, since it's
Yeah.
on the agenda, that Marjorie will continue her role at WPSBA. Is that fair?
Yes, sorry, yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
I'd be delighted.
It's hard for her to get away from that now since she's,
Yeah.
great. Okay,
Great.
excellent. Thank you again, everyone, for giving me your preferences, and for everyone who's chairing, thank you for chairing, thank you for chairing, thank you for chairing. I know it's definitely more work, and we appreciate that. Okay, and then we have no board announcements. Right on.
Oh, if that's all right, just for a quick
moment.
moment. So I know the good-looking superintendent left, and so this is my first one here. So go ahead and just at your table there, you have just a short one-pager there. And it just gives a high-level overview of the transition plan in as I joined the family here at KLSD. And so the first part there about on a listening and learning turn. So that part has started, before and since day one. So that started directly with meeting individually with each one of the administrators in our district. Board members will started that process. We'll be getting that through, and we'll continue to have some of those conversations. And also, as we come back into the regular school year, part of that listening tour will be going out and meeting with all entire faculties and having actually a visioning conversation as we work towards that goal. And then as those different elements come in place, that transition advisory team, once I get that data pulled in, my hope is here maybe around the Thanksgiving area, or getting close to having that set. And then establishing that committee, and as you see identified there, hopefully a few members of staff, administration, community members to be a part of that conversation and taking all of those different data narrative element points and distilling that down to what is going to ultimately be and the third step there is our kind of KLSD plan for 2030. And so that'll be the target right now is to come forth at that 2nd January meeting to go ahead and bring at least what we believe would be that KLSD 2030 plan, give you updates along the way and going from there and stuff. So I just, from my initial couple of weeks in, it's just been wonderful. So I just want to say thank you for giving me the opportunity to come and be a part of the district. And I just been going home last couple of nights, and my wife said, "Hey, you got a little pep in your step there." I said, "Yes, I do." And so it's been wonderful. So I just want to say thank you. So thank you very much, Julia.
Yeah, excellent.
Right, can I
Yes, sir.
just, so I think this is a great idea, what do we call it, the 2030 Excellence for All. I really think this is a great idea. There's some sort of core fundamentals that we subscribe to, like our learning commitment, for
Yes.
example. Will you be taking a look at like all of it and evaluating, our core commitment? We've kind of bought into that, our learning commitment, and we sort of begin every presentation almost with it, and everybody on the board, well, with the exception maybe of the most recent board members, understands that and sort of has that view. And of course, I'm open to change, but it to me, all the way to the very sort of top, or maybe the foundation of everything that we've established, I think is worth having another look at and either validating, that is the way we want to go forward, or let's tweak this around the edges a little bit. Is that sort of your intent, that it's a whole big, let's reevaluate where we're standing today?
And that's exactly where in any of those conversations that will go in small groups and things like that. For example, when we meet collectively this year, a little bit later in August, with the administrative council and the board in that retreat of conversation, will be having some of that conversation about looking at and talking about, here's our current reality and reflecting on that. And talking about that language that you described on the learner commitment, the components in there. So identify what are the strengths that we have in our school district, and then where are some of the opportunities that we would see. And so we'll have literally hundreds of conversations with hundreds of voices in there, and it will be just a constant, just bringing that down and finding connectivity and kind connectivity. And then at the end, we will have this update or adjustments, as you had said, or maybe do a little tack to the starboard side on a few things and just go ahead and say, okay, here's where we're going. And then that will set course for us to go ahead and identify where we are. And then on the heels of that will be a specific structure that will involve basically SMART goal structures that will come from the central kind of piece, from the districts, from the building, and then hopefully down to our teams and stuff. So then we can say, for example, like the sustainability committee we just talked about, here we've talked about that. Where is that happening in the organization? What are the actions that we're taking forth to move that into the next area? And then when we're here's the results we're looking for, and share that information out. So
that's a really good example, actually. Things have changed there's been sea change in that space within the district over the last 2 years, I'll say.
Yes.
And there may be opportunities there to take another look and see who's driving it. Is it being driven from within? Is it being driven? And if things are changing, and what should the charge of the sustainability committee be, and so forth. So I really applaud that. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thanks, Rory.
One thing that I failed to mention when we were on 6.01, I just want to go back there for a second. Kim will be sending out invitation to the community or the committees that do have community involvement. So audit, finance, facilities, we'll have a letter going out for those committees. The LES committee, in the presentation that we did with the board last time, we're just going to maintain, since it's meeting over the summer, we're maintaining the current community members on that committee.
And then Julie, just mentioning community, Ray, as part of the listening and learning tour, I'm sure as the school year starts, that I'm sure the families would be very excited to have as many opportunities as possible to sit down with you and hear from you and I'm sure that's part of your plan as well.
Oh, yes. So looking, again, will hopefully get me connected with our kind of PTO leadership. My intent is to visit each one of our schools so that, you know, they're most often there for the purpose of the school and more than likely join one of their regularly scheduled PTO meetings so I can be involved in those conversations. And actually talked with Alex a little bit earlier, be looking at creating a SEPTO kind of similar conversation in that same regard. Our student leaders at the high school having a conversation with that group. So there'll be a lot of opportunity to have the collective voice coming in from the community. And then for those folks who perhaps can't make any of those things for whatever reason, we'll send out a very straightforward questionnaire to help bring those voices into the conversation as well too. So, yep.
Sounds great.
Did you want to talk about 6.02,
Yeah, I've skipped some.
the facilities committee charge?
Yeah. I'm just realizing I'm going back to, sorry. So I got to pull that up. Sorry, I have that open on my computer. So the facilities committee was originally organized around evaluating the 5-year building and condition survey and thinking about how we might utilize a bond in order to address needs that weren't in sort of those highest categories that were required. That committee worked really hard together with a large number of community involvement, and were able to sort of figure out what were the priorities. And that was really how we created the items that ended up in the bond. And so they created the bond and the budget of $49.5 million. And then they helped to steward that bond and be in communication with the community, which we successfully passed. And now, of course, over the last year, we've been working really hard with KG&D and our staff to get our plans created. The facilities committee met throughout the year last year to reevaluate some of the plans, make choices about different options if we had, the budgets didn't come in as expected, so that we could figure out how to prioritize things within that. So we definitely feel that it would be good to continue with the facilities committee, but it seems appropriate to rethink the charge, given that the original charge for that committee was really very much was related to the bond. So if it's okay, I don't know if you guys have your computer open, it is in the admin content. I'm happy just to kind of give you the top level of it, which was that, in anticipation of the capital project, we established the facilities committee to review the 5-year capital plan and the feasibility of various funding options. So that was sort of the first whereas, that they concluded their study and we approved it. So this is the new option. So that was the first thing, is sort of what I just described. That has happened. So this is a proposal to change the next whereas is to say, whereas during the 21-22 school year, the facilities committee concluded their study and the community voted to approve a $49.5 million capital project. And whereas during the 23-24 school year, district administration, in conjunction with the architects and the construction manager, has commenced the next phase of the capital project. And so this is the part that I want to discuss with us together, be it resolved that in accordance with board policy 2250, board committees, the Board of Education continues to have a facilities committee comprised of 3 board trustees, the superintendent, assistant superintendent for business, director of operations and maintenance, and up to 6 community members, guests and outside consultants such as the school architect, construction manager, and other relevant subject matter consultants or guests shall be permitted to attend the meetings of the facilities committee when the committee determines that such outside assistance is necessary for the committee to complete its work. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the charge of the committee will meet on an as-needed basis to assist the district architect and construction manager to ensure a successful completion of the capital project, to ensure the least possible disruption of students and staff, to partner with the PTOs and SEPTO to communicate and coordinate with the school community, and to provide feedback if the need arises. So I think I just wanted to have a discussion about this charge. We are sort of saying it's going to be an as-needed basis meetings, more so than a monthly meeting. And I think Ray, from his work in previous capital campaigns, has suggested that they'll do a report out on progress of the project as part of our regular board meetings throughout the year. So that wouldn't necessarily be at the committee level, but at the board table. So they would kind of keep us updated, and that
We'll
the
be here
committee
in
would be
September.
more in those areas of, disruptions or things that they needed an opinion on, et cetera. So I just want to talk through that a little bit
Are
with
you
the other
thinking,
board
are you
members.
thinking like quarterly reports from the construction companies?
So their first check-in will be here in September. So that'll be a key part we'll start with, and it'll be roughly probably quarterly. And certainly if anything presents itself, we would snap this team together and say, hey, we would need some feedback, and because something came along the way that we weren't
Go to lot,
expecting. So
right,
that
yeah.
would be in general, what we used to is that quarterly feedback at the board table proper, and then be able to lean on this group if and when something presents itself to get the feedback on that from that directly.
Yeah, I think communication with the community is key.
Yep.
Keep them apprised of what's going on.
And I know that
That's
our
exciting.
hope is that right around the corner, beginning of August, we'll start getting some photos up on the website that will show some of the work, because the team is hitting it hard right now. And there's not a lot of opportunity for us to get in there because they're really tearing things out. And so as it starts coming back online, we'll be looking at getting some of those photos right up on the website. So
And I think it will be helpful for John as the board liaison to parent council, that preceding any meetings where we know we're going to be presenting, that we really encourage parent council to push out, like, please come to the board meeting. So the community knows, we're reporting out on it during the board meetings. We're trying to be transparent by presenting things at the board meeting, but sometimes people don't tune into the board meetings. But I think to really encourage people that we're going to be reporting out at our board meetings about that progress. So please, tune into those meetings.
Agreed.
Are we thinking this is a permanent subcommittee of the board going forward? There's no time limit on this resolution.
I think until the bond is
Can we
completed.
say that?
Should we add that?
And before we go adding things, do we think that the responsibility of the committee should also to oversee and have a fiduciary responsibility to oversee the budget, maybe even the bidding process, or is that something that the board shouldn't get involved in?
I don't think I think the board should be, it should be reported to the board if we have any concerns that we can't really have overages. We have to modify the
Sometimes it's just
process.
a
Yeah, right, yeah,
So I think with some of those pieces, for example, we were starting getting some bids in right now, and based upon those, we'll probably award some of those. And a couple of those looks like we'll need to reject those and then go out for bid again. So
And you're comfortable with the administration leading all of those decisions without necessarily getting input from the board?
I think our input would be as much of just even that formal updates, or, for example, we're more likely going to need to call another meeting to award some of these contracts in the next couple of weeks. And at that board table there, we can share that. We are under some obligations to look at that lowest bidder and move that forward too. And then when we have the architect team or our construction management team on board, they'll vet that out. They'll go ahead and do the interviews of the team or walkabouts with the different contractors that have applied to making sure that they didn't. For example, in one of our bids that we had, it appeared to be a low bid, and yet in the walkthrough, there was an element that was significant that contractor missed. And so our Koner's rep that, we have on board identified that and said, disqualify that person. So they're quite good. I've had years of experience with the Triton. I would say very highly, and in particular our Triton rep, stellar. And so they are definitely representing the entire district, meeting to meeting and stuff like that. But that will come forward pretty well for sure.
Okay.
Yep.
So then just the time question.
Yeah, I think it wouldn't hurt to say,
Successful implementation.
yeah, where
of the
would we
project.
put that? So that would go,
It does say in the first bullet to ensure a successful completion of the capital project. I don't know if it's implied that the work, I'm not sure. just seems like that's an opportunity, maybe
I'm
if you
sorry,
want to
Marjorie, where
expand.
where are you
In the
saying?
first bullet, under the now therefore be it
Oh,
resolved.
now
That the
therefore
charge
ensure
of the committee will be to
successful
meet as needed to assist the district architect and construction manager. Perhaps you want to just take that first sub-bullet and add it to the now therefore be it resolved, that these people are going to
Through
meet on an
the-
as-needed basis to ensure successful completion of the capital project, and then enumerate the other 3 bullets or something
Right,
like
to
that?
ensure,
I
and
guess
through
I
the,
guess my
and
question is
through
also,
the
will
successful.
it persist beyond the completion, the successful completion or not?
I
We
don't
don't
think
say
so.
that. We say,
Right.
we're not saying, we could say, yeah, we've successfully completed it, but the facilities committee is gonna keep on going for whatever other reason we may have. So, I mean, is this,
Yeah, so I think it then, so what if we take that first bullet and say, now therefore be it resolved that the charge of the committee will be to meet on an as-needed basis through the completion of the
I
bond
like it.
to assist, so I'm adding after basis, through the completion of the work outlined in the bond, something like that, Kim, is that? Capital project, sorry,
2020.
yeah.
What year was it, 2023 capital project?
So it will say, now therefore be it resolved that the charge of the committee will be to meet on an as-needed basis through the completion of the capital projects outlined in the bond, something like that? To assist the district architect and construction manager. I think we can still leave that first bullet, actually.
Do you want to add timely, successful timely completion?
I don't think we
Not
can.
necessarily.
We're going to do the best we can.
Okay.
All right, so Kim, is that okay? You got it? Because I wasn't typing anything. All right. Okay, so, but are we, so just for clarification, we'll meet on an as-needed basis. The reporting will be on a cadence of probably 3 reports next year, somewhere in that.
Yeah, 3 to 4 to quarterly
3
piece.
to 4.
And, yep, and I would even say with this potential group coming together, we may explore the idea of kind of meeting at one of the facilities or things like that as it comes in that area. And so being open to the possibilities of meeting at one of the schools so we can do a walkabout and things like that.
With
So
the committee, okay.
Good.
Will the facilities committee report out to the Board of Ed or no?
I wouldn't necessarily see that. My hope would be that when that came forth as a member of that, at least a member of that, we would share that. And as much as we're talking today, that anybody that's on that group could just have that conversation. Here's where you saw it, I think of the earlier item, and just sharing that out. So
That makes sense? What are you thinking, Roy? You're thinking over there.
Yeah, no, I mean, it makes sense to have a facilities committee. They've no fiduciary oversight responsibility and they've no report out to the Board of Ed responsibilities. So I guess I have to read again what the responsibility really is. Like the,
I think the opportunity here is for the administration to have a subset of board members where we can have a conversation on site in a building outside of the public eye also, just to be able to talk about things that are going to arise and then to be able to bring them back to the board through the administration, right? So having just a board subcommittee whereby the administration can talk with a few board members about the status of something, have a conversation on site in a building as needed in preparation to bring a report to the board and the community in public prime time and to inform decisions, to help the board make decisions, really. Sort of like a sounding board outside of the regular cadence of the full board meetings in open session.
and if we were able to kind of cadence it well, then more than likely we would try to do a little bit of a check-in with, as we would have our architects and things like that on the group. So when they do their formal report, they could have maybe received some feedback from us beforehand. They would be kind of asked and directed to report out. Whoever, would share out and say, hey, I was at the school with you. Would you mind repeating what I think I heard when we did the walkabout at that building?
I understand the benefit. I
Yeah.
think back to Bill's very first question.
Yeah.
We need to establish some cadence then for the report outs. It can't be that we hear nothing until like the end of the year. And, oh, here's the 20 things that we did. Like, I
Right.
think the entire board needs a report out from you or from whomever
Yes,
I
on
think,
some regular basis.
I think what's being said here is just that the reporting out would shift from the facilities committee. So
Yes.
last year
Yeah,
I did
no,
the
I'm hearing
report out, but now this really is the work of the administration. The construction's
that's fine.
underway, so the administration will report out, I think Ray is saying, on a quarterly basis or
good, yeah.
thereabouts.
Yeah, gotcha, okay.
and just with this piece, I would remind again, when I look at this is from a communication standpoint, by having board members there, some community members there, and be a part of that, so they can go back to their circles of influence and share, yeah, hey, I see this thing moving, and this was made and stuff like that. So to me, that in and of itself is really worth the conversation. Yeah, thank you.
Great, okay, so then I just need a motion to approve it's just a discussion, so do we still need to? Let's approve it at
Yeah, I think we're
the
here.
Next meeting.
the next meeting.
Well, then we can bring back the revised language.
Yeah, let's
Okay.
approve it at the next.
I have a tendency to lean into this, just get it done. So-
Get it done.
Whatever you want. So-
No, it's your meeting.
Let's do the next meeting, I mean, it's not gonna really change the
No,
work very
no.
much, so let's, if you can, next meeting, we'll have the actual language
Yep.
of that we changed a little bit, that'd be great.
And in the absence of the resolution, it doesn't prohibit a subgroup of the board meeting.
Right,
Yeah.
correct.
You know.
If
like
we need to
the
get it,
facilities committee
we'll
if
call,
needed. So,
yeah.
So I
Yeah.
don't think there's an urgency.
Yeah. Okay, great. So we're gonna move on to 8.01. The discussion of the tax levy, Lisa?
So if it's, as Lisa kind of lines in there, I just wanted to compliment Lisa. I really appreciate how you laid this out and the clarity of what was presented, and just picking up, it was really a strong document. So thank you for putting this together. It's wonderful.
Thank you. So tonight I'm here just to talk a little bit about the tax levy, which we'll be officially setting tonight. And I'm happy to say that the total tax levy will remain the same as we presented during budget discussions. There's only small changes in the tax rate versus what we had presented during budget. And there's minor variations in which the highest is about 8 cents per $1,000 assessed value. So again, just nominal changes. And as you know, the tax levy is dependent on our fund equity. The fund equity has 3 general components, and that is our restricted reserves, our designated reserves, and our unassigned reserves, which also we call like our fund balance or 4% fund balance, if you will. Our unaudited total fund equity has increased by $913,000, 497, and I just wanted to note that 110,000 of that is actually premium from the sale of the ban, and we're required by law to reserve that. Any premium from any sale of any borrowing, we are required to reserve it, and then when we go in, we'll use that to spend or against the debt. So when we go to pay off the ban, in this particular case, we will use 110,000. So that's also, maybe you may see a little bit bigger jump this year versus last year, because that is there, but that's going to go out when we sell the ban. So on June 20th, we adjusted our reserves in a fiscally responsible way for future years. One significant increase we saw in our restricted reserves, and this again is our TRS subfund, which increased by $329,000, $369. As you may recall, this is a newer reserve permitted by law that was actually passed by the state in April of 2019. So this is our 6th year end, putting monies into this reserve. We are currently funding it at the maximum state permitted levels, and this will help ease the burden to taxpayers when TRS mandatory contribution rates fluctuate from one year to the next. Another reserve worth mentioning is our reserve for encumbrances. This is worth mentioning because this reserve is going down significantly, and it helps offset the increase we see in TRS. The reserve for encumbrances is considered part of our assigned balance. And these are expenses that were budgeted for in the 23-24 school year, and for various reasons, work could not be completed or supplies could not be delivered before the year end. Many of these delays are still continue to be supply chain disruptions and interruptions. Although those supply chain issues have been getting better over the last few years, therefore we are carrying $735,000 less than we did last year in our reserve for encumbrances. During the budget process, we proposed to offset our tax levy by using two sources. The first was $750,000 in our committed reserves. The board approved this at the June 20th meeting. We also proposed at that time an additional $2,450,000 of designated funds to offset the tax levy for a total of $3,200,000. And this designation actually represents the same designation as last year. The final classification of our funds is our unassigned, unreserved fund balance. The state requires that this is capped at 4%. This year, our fund balance is right now approximately 3.97%. That's unaudited. Our audit begins the first full week of August. And it should be noted that, again, this is an unaudited number. So I've also done some analysis on how we rank in fund equity. This year, I actually looked at the fund equity as it is in proportion to the overall expenditure budget of the districts, because so many of your reserves are, again, the 4% is based on 4% of your subsequent year's budget, right? So if you have a large budget, you can reserve more, money. So we are right there, right in the middle, literally like right smack in the middle of those 44 school districts in Westchester again, and that's usually where we do fall, is in that median. And all of this information gets us to the purpose of the resolution the board is being asked to approve tonight, which is to set the tax levy. In May, the voters approved the expenditure portion of our budget. Tonight, the board will approve the primary source of our funding of the budget, which is the tax levy. And as I stated before, the levy will remain the same as was projected during budget development process. And at this time, I'm happy to answer any questions. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
That takes us to 8.02. Would someone like to make a motion to move 8.02? Motion by Rory, seconded by Bill. All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Great, thank you. And this takes us to the public comment portion of the evening, and there's no one here, so we'll move on to consent agenda. There are no items to be pulled out of the consent agenda, but
I was going to pull out 14.06. I had a couple of clarifying questions about the bids, and I thought perhaps we were going to look into that further. So if I could make a motion to pull 14.06, seconded by Rory.
yeah,
Thank you
so
for
we'll just pull that. Okay.
just taking some time to look
Yes.
into the bids. So do we vote on the pulling that out of the consent agenda then?
No, I
fine.
think we
Okay,
just
so
make a motion
pull
to
that.
to
Okay, so
approve the
approve the
consent agenda
minus that.
without
Thank you.
14.06. Thank you for reminding me about that. Removed. Yeah, yes. Yes. Okay, yes. Okay, great. So Marjorie made a motion to approve the consent agenda without item 14.06, seconded by Rory. All those, any discussion? No, okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, great. So I don't believe that we have, if anyone wanted to bring anything up for board dialogue. Okay, great. So we'll go to future meetings. Our next Board of Education meeting will be on Thursday, August 22nd. Following that, we have our first Board of Education meeting of the school year, which is on Thursday, September 5th. And then our second Board of Education meeting of the school year will be on Thursday, September 19th. And then, Ray,
Yeah, I appreciate
talk about-
it.
yeah,
I was
so we have
wondering,
superintendent
again, if the
comments, yeah.
board just allow me to go ahead and just have a moment at the kind of the end of the meeting, just to wrap things up. At times, there may be some discussion items that I will take a note on, and sometimes maybe our community may come forth and make some statements or things like that. That would give me an opportunity to go ahead and either just turn and talk with the board and let you know that we'll be following up on that directly, or maybe clarify some things. As we know, we don't want to get into that discussion going back and forth, but give me a chance to at least to bring a little bit of a closure to that as well too. So that's really what that piece is there as much. And then even things I think I mentioned before, but on September 19th, the second meeting, we will be having, that report out on our bond project from that group there, as well as, thank you for the opportunity earlier, but things like just the high level plan, I would speak to about that a little bit. Just a couple of closing comments in particular, as not looking at a specific report, but when we meet in August, I can let you know a little bit where the energy is starting to shape up. Certainly in September, hopefully we'll have maybe been one of our SEPTO meetings and things like that and had those conversations. So just gives me a chance to kind of bring that together and for a closure. So it'll be about as short as it is tonight, so it won't be too long. So thank you.
Great. Okay.
Great.
Excellent. Someone want to make a motion to adjourn? Motion by Bill, second by Marjorie. All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Great, thank you.
Thank you.